This is while number 29. So basically what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be evaluating the expression. So for this expression, we already have our defined variables over here. As we can see that there is an x over here, we can substitute that value for 5. For here, we realize that there's a y over here, so we can substitute that value for 6. And we see that there's a 7 right over here for our z value, so that's 2 times 7. And if we add them all together, we get our solution. So 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 6 is 12, and 2 times 7 is 14. Add them all together, and you'll get 36. 10 plus 12 is 22. 22 plus 14 is 36. Moving on. Now, when it says simplified rational expressions, and it's asking you to find the excluded values, what it means is what values can x not be for this to be true? Well, that's what we're trying to find out. Now, there's an x variable over here. Now, as a basis for this, for when you begin learning division, it's already told that you cannot divide by a 0. This is untrue or undefined because this is not possible. So whenever you have any cases like this, you have to exclude the values that makes the denominator 0. Now we have a 10x over here. What makes 10x equal to 0? Well, that's only when x is equal to 0. So our excluded value is actually just 0. Let's try this one. 2c and c plus 5. Now, a rule for our excluded values is that the excluded values can only occurs when your denominator is equal to 0. So your excluded values are all the values that make your denominator 0. In this case, we have c plus 5 is our denominator. So we set that equal to 0, and we find out that c is equal to negative 5. Now, what this means is that your excluded value is going to be negative 5. Since that if you plug in negative 5 over here, you get 2c over 0. And that's incorrect. So we have to exclude this negative 5 value, which is why we say that negative 5 is our excluded value. Moving on. Now, multiply and divide the rational expressions. So in this example, we are basically just multiplying these fractions, 3x squared. Now, whenever we're dealing with a situation like this, remember, you just need to multiply the numerators together and the denominators together when it's multiplication. So in this case, you would be multiplying 3 times x plus 2 and x squared times x. As a result, you get 3x plus 6 over x cubed. And that would be our answer. If we were to take this a step further, our excluded values would be x cannot equal 0. Since if x cubed is equal to 0, then it would be 3x plus 6 over 0, which is not something that's possible. So we know our excluded value cannot be 0. So our excluded value is going to be 0. But in this function, we cannot let it be 0, since it would give us an incorrect answer, which is 3x plus 6 over 0. Moving on. Let's try one more problem. 5x over x squared plus 5x plus 6 times x plus 3. Now you have to be a little bit clever with this. you see that you have a quadratic equation over here. So what you have to do is you have to factor that out. You have to check if it factors out. And it sure happens that it does by x plus 3 times x plus 2. Now you have an x plus 3 right over here that you're multiplying by. However, when you multiply this together, you realize that you can just cross these two out because they're the same quantity. As a result, you get 5x over x plus 2, and that will be your answer. If we were to take this a step further, our excluded values would equal -2, since in this case, if we do 5x -2 plus 2, we get 5x over 0, which is not correct, which is impossible. So we know that our excluded value is equal to -2. And that's it for today for Ylog number 29.